Welcome to Raving Ryan. I'm your host, Ryan Anastasio. Today I have a very special guest, the Governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont. Governor, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Nice to see you.
You're fresh off your vacation. How was it? You went up to Maine?
I was up there, lots of family. I got to see the governor of Maine, who was nearby me. I went to a wedding of Chief Justice Rogers' daughter, who's I'm close to up there. Then I went fishing with Andrew Cuomo, so it was a busy vacation.
Yeah, so how was that fishing trip with Andrew Cuomo? We saw you caught the twin trout, and you were able to kind of build a relationship with the governor. How do you think that relationship is, and do you think it's really important to be talking with the governor of New York?
Yeah, that relationship is really important for our state, and you can go to Governors Association meetings, you sit in an air-conditioned room, you're surrounded by staff, and it's a little artificial. You go out fishing and you're waiting for the trout to bite, and you get a chance to know each other. And we had a really good conversation. He's really smart. He's been doing this his entire life. You know, I come out of the business world, so it's sort of interesting as we talk through. But most importantly, what our two states can do together. You know, what good does it do me to speed up Metro North if you get to the New York border and then it, crawls into Grand Central? You know, what good is it for me to clean up Long Island Sound if New York is not reciprocating? If I can buy wind power alongside Andrew Cuomo, it brings down the cost for both of us. So we had a lot to talk about.
Yes, you've been governor now for more than 6 months, and you've been through one legislative session. And this year, you were able to pass a budget on time, and you passed some accomplishments such as the $15 minimum wage and paid family medical leave. How do you think your first 7 months were as governor? And is there anything you wish you did differently?
I think we got a lot done. People would sort of say, getting the budget done on time. Remember 2 years ago, they didn't get a budget done until October, November. And every mayor and every superintendent of schools, their hair was on fire, said, I may not be able to expect a lot more money given the fiscal situation of the state, but give me a budget on time. So that was my number one priority. I worked closely with the Republicans and Democrats, got them to the table, got them talking in a way that maybe we weren't as good at over the last period of time. And so I think that was a real success for the state. We did it without raising tax rates, which was important to me because I couldn't promise to eliminate all these taxes, but I wanted to give people a sense that we're getting their fiscal house in order. That's what we did.
Well, you didn't have any tax increases, but you did expand the sales tax to things such as Netflix and other online platforms. What do you say to people that are concerned about having to pay more taxes? I mean, the sales taxes can be a burden on some families.
The sales tax used to be the revenue source for the state of Connecticut, back before we had the income tax. But back then, the sales tax applied to 75% of the economy. Now the sales tax applies to much less than half of the economy, right? The service economy, digital downloads, the e-commerce economy, all that is sort of tax exempt, which I thought was sort of fundamentally unfair. I mean, if you're a Main Street merchant, and you're selling something, you're paying sales tax on it. If I bought it online, I wasn't paying sales tax on it in many cases. So I thought, it was a way for us to equalize the playing field a little bit, give our Main Street merchants a better opportunity, and it got us a little bit of revenue as well.
Yeah, do you think there's a possibility that you will someday lower the income tax or any other business taxes?
Well, we did a lot in terms of eliminate the business entity tax, some of those smaller nuisance taxes that we had to do. I did not raise any of those rates. That was a big thing. We'll be able to reduce the income tax or the sales tax in the near term. I'd like to take a look at it. But most important, I think, Ryan, is showing some fiscal stability. I mean, we've been like this for years as a state, and every time a new governor comes in, they usually raise tax rates, or we end up with a budget that's out of whack within 2 years, given how it's set up. We didn't let that happen this time. And by the way, we have a rainy day fund, which may sound boring to you, but it means if there's an economic downturn, we're not going to have to cut a lot of vital services.
Yeah, speaking of an economic downturn, there are some economists that are saying that a recession is coming. There are other people who are saying it's not. What do you think? Do you think a recession is going to happen?
Yes, a recession is going to happen.
Is Connecticut ready?
I absolutely guarantee you it will happen. When? We'll see. We're more ready than we've ever been in our history. Depending on the nature of the downturn, we'll see what happens. Income tax revenue is very volatile. That's a fact of life, especially capital gains. So we've got a buffer in there. We're going to have, well over $2 billion in that rainy day fund, just so that our schools and our municipalities have some confidence that we'll be able to keep doing what we got to do.
Yeah, and I want to move into a more controversial issue, which is tolls. When you were running for governor, you said that you would not toll regular cars, and that you said you were going to only do trucks only. But then when you came into office, you realized that that wasn't feasible, and you decided that you were going to go for a plan that included all cars. This session, you weren't able to get a vote on tolls. You tried to, and you said that a special session was going to happen possibly this summer. What's the status of that special session? Do you think it's going to happen soon?
I think it's going to happen at the end of September. That's all subject to legislative, but just pull the lens back. I mean, our location should be such a big advantage for the state. Right now, it's an enormous disadvantage. Every business leader you talk to says you've got to speed up transportation, end the gridlock on our highways, speed up rail system. Down in Fairfield County, it takes 10, 15 minutes longer to get into New York than it used to before. Here in the greater Hartford area, rail service is slower. Shoreline East is less frequent. And every business person I talk to says, I got to be able to get my employees to work better, more efficiently, and I got to be able to make it easier for my customers to get around. And it's just an incredibly inconvenient for moms and dads. We could give them an extra half an hour a day if I could speed up transportation. Republicans and Democrats agree on that. Then it's a question of, okay, well, how do I pay for it? How do I fix that 90-year-old bridge that trains have to slow to a crawl to go over, or maybe could be structurally at risk at some time in the future? There's one plan out there. It's called Prioritized Progress, which is more borrowing, $700 million a year, on the backs of the taxpayers. I steer away from that. I'd like to do electronic tolling, because a lot of that is paid for by out-of-staters. A lot of that is paid for by truckers. And to your other point, I can offer significant discounts for in-state drivers so that I don't disadvantage them. At least I maximize the amount of revenue that comes in from out-of-staters. I think it's really key to the economic future of the state. It's a tough vote for the guys in this building. It's easier to say, let's not do it now, or maybe we can borrow a little bit and hope it goes away. The maintenance on our roads and bridges and rails is not going to go away, and it's time for us to deal with it.
Yeah, and you said that there was going to be a special session. I know it's hard to get those people back here in the summer, but are you thinking maybe they can come back in the fall? You're going to try to have a vote on tolls before the start of the next session?
I'm going to try. I wanted to do it during the regular session. I thought it'd be good. Let's do it in the summer if you can't do it in the regular session. Now we're going to do a special session probably end of September. That's obviously up to the legislative leadership. But I want them to step up. I want them to make a tough choice that is key to the economic future of the state.
Yeah, and when you were running, as I said, you were not for tolls on all vehicles. You said only trucks. And Bob Stefanowski, who ran against you, said that he didn't believe you, and he said that you'd eventually flip to supporting on all cars, and he was right, and you did. Do you think maybe you were dishonest with voters when you said that?
I went down and I talked to Department of Transportation. I talked to Elaine Chao. I said, what can we do? If we can do trucks only like they do in Rhode Island, can I do that in Connecticut? And they strongly discouraged me from doing that. They said it'd be legally complicated. You're still under a lawsuit in Rhode Island, trucks only. They've been under that suit for a couple of years. Pennsylvania is the same situation. But I'm all ears. I mean, I'm not wedded to one plan. I'm wedded to a plan that provides us a revenue stream to fix our roads and bridges without burdening the taxpayers for the next 50 years.
Yeah, no, with tolls, obviously people will be paying. If you're going from New Haven to Hartford, you're going to be paying a couple dollars every day, and that adds up. Is there going to be some sort of thing where you'll be reimbursing people that are very frequent travelers?
Yes.
All right.
You want more answer than that? I mean,
No, that's
I can preload your Easy Pass. I can make sure that a local delivery guy who goes back and forth over a bridge only has to pay for it once, not every time they go back. I'm ready to work with the legislature if they can step up to the table with me on this. I want to roll up my sleeves, and I want to get this done, and I don't want to put it all on the backs of the Connecticut taxpayers.
And there were some legislators that were saying they'd be in favor of maybe tolls only on bridges. You think that's feasible?
Well, you got to raise the money to fix the roads and bridges. So I can start with that. It's better than nothing. You know me, I come out of the business world. I like to solve the problem. I don't like to do little piecemeal solutions that get us closer to there. But I've also learned in this building, you compromise. And if that's easier for folks to get us started, let's get started.
Yeah, and another issue is the Connecticut Port Authority. There's been a lot of controversy this year, and there's been a lot of questions about several contracts, purchases, and employment decisions by the Port Authority. In one instance involving paying $3,000 to the daughter of the chairman of the Port Authority to take pictures of their office. And there have been other instances where contracts have been given to friends of people. Are you concerned with these issues, and what are you going to do to try to make sure that this isn't happening in other departments?
I thought that was inappropriate. It leads to a certain lack of confidence in our government institutions, and we made some changes there. But pull the lens back a second. I mean, our ports, starting with New London, New Haven, and Bridgeport should be amazing assets for the state. And for 50 years, they festered, and not much really happened there. So that's why the legislature, in their wisdom, created the Port Authority 5 years ago, something like that, as a quasi-public agency. And in that 5 years, we now have New London Port is going to be coming alive. It's going to be a center for wind power. Not only what that means in terms of New London and the greater environment there, but that means in terms of an energy source for the state of Connecticut once Millstone's no longer with us. So they are succeeding in the big things. They screwed up on some of the small things, and I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, and then Scott Bates, who currently serves as the Deputy Secretary of State, he was the chairman of the Port Authority, and there was a questionable contract that he gave to someone that he knew, but it was for a lot more money than he could have gotten it for. There are a lot of Republicans in the legislature that are calling for him to step down as Deputy Secretary of State. Do you think he should resign?
I don't think so. Look, he was a volunteer chairman of the Port Authority, and they got a lot of big things right, like I tried to describe to you. Totally unrelated to what was happening at the Port Authority is also deputy over at Secretary of State's office. I want to encourage folks from outside the political world to get more involved in state government. So be careful before you, throw these guys under the bus.
Yeah. Have you talked to Scott Bates at all to make sure that this isn't about this at all?
I think he's been out of the country for a few weeks, so I haven't talked to him in some time.
Yeah, so I want to talk about another report that came out from CCM. And Connecticut towns and cities have always had financial difficulties, and the state has been forced to lower state aid at times. But this year, you were able to secure that funding. However, this year, 91 municipalities raised their property taxes, and 82 of those were above the 1.6% inflation rate. The per capita property tax burden is $2,847, and it's almost twice the national average. What do you think you can do to decrease the burden on local towns and cities? Because you can lower taxes in the state, but if the burden's increasing in the towns, it doesn't really make a difference.
Be more efficient and cut your spending and hold the line on property taxes. I tried to do my part as governor. I tried to make sure we maintained our municipal aid. I wanted to maintain our state aid to education. We held that flat, or in some cases, in our more distressed communities, able actually to increase that aid. I think there's an awful lot of duplication of services in our municipalities. We've got 169 towns. If they could share some of those back office functions, be it IT or purchasing, we're one of the only states in the country that spend more money outside of the classroom for education than inside of the classroom. I got to be very careful. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything, but with best practices, I think you can see some significant savings there. And I'm going to help take the lead on that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues Connecticut has is we have 169 towns that operate independently. In a place like maybe out west, you have school districts that are the size of New Haven County, but in New Haven you have 20 school districts. Do you think we should consider some regionalization of shared services, whether it's schools, police departments, fire departments?
Look, I do, but I think it should be led by the municipalities themselves. I mean, they don't want the heavy hand of the governor telling us what to do. But if I was Ansonia and I was Derby, if you got 2 superintendents and multiple fire departments, you think they'd have some incentives to work together. What I want to do is make sure government gets out of the way, that these folks have the opportunity to work together, share services, share IT, share superintendents, and that's how you bring down property tax in a real way.
So there would be no forced school regionalization?
No, that was never considered. That's not going to happen. Look, we love our local communities, don't we?
Yes. All right, and I want to move into more about economic development. You've really focused on this a lot. When you were running for governor, you were able to get a place such as Infosys here, and you've created a board of economic advisors, such as you have the former Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi on there. What are you doing for economic development? And are you constantly talking with business leaders from other states to try to come here?
Constantly, constantly. Look, we had a bit of a black eye after GE left. Woe was me, last one out, turn out the lights. We're a little down on ourselves, right? And the best people to sell the state of Connecticut are the businesses who are here, those that believe in the state. That's how we got Infosys up here. You know, Infosys coming to Hartford, oh my God. And then we had Stanley Black & Decker and the Travelers and the insurance guys. They said, we love this state. We want you to be part of what we're doing here, and we'll work with you. So I've gotten the business leaders. We've got CERC. We've got the Business Roundtable. They are taking the lead. When I have a company that's interested in Connecticut, it's not me or DECD doing all the selling, but it's folks in the same space in terms of business saying, this is why we like Connecticut. We think you should consider it too.
Yeah, should we expect some announcements coming from companies that are going to be moving here?
Wait and see.
All right, we will. Shortly after the 2018 elections, President Trump hosted a roundtable with all the newly elected governors, and both Republicans and Democrats attended, but you did not attend because you said you were too busy with the transition. This was probably a good opportunity. There were you were able to talk with the president and some of his cabinet appointees. Why did you choose not to attend this event? And do you think it's important to have a dialogue with the president?
I think it's important to have a dialogue with the federal government. Yeah. And as you know, I've been down there. I met with Elaine Chao in transportation. Yeah. We met with FAA. We met with economic and community development down there. I like to get back to Connecticut. And frankly, these Governors Association things are fine. And I do it because I want to get to know my fellow governors. I want to be able to work with them. You're right. There was a few of the governors stayed over, and there's a photo op over at the White House. And I respect the office of the presidency, and I'll be there.
Yeah. Have you met with President Trump at all?
No, but I met with Vice President Pence. How's that?
Nice. Yeah, and you've 2020 elections have been very busy. You endorsed Joe Biden in June, right after the debates. Why did you choose to endorse Joe Biden?
I think that he's a good man that people know and trust, who understands American values and what makes America unique. I think he speaks to the middle class, which has gotten hammered in this country over the last generation. And I think he'd be a very good president if you wanted to change the focus for the next 4 years, and I think he gives us the best chance to win.
Yeah, right now he has had a little trouble in the polls lately. He had a big lead, and now it's kind of narrowed. He's had many gaffes lately, and many people are saying that's because of his age. He's saying it's not. Are you concerned at all about these gaffes? And you think maybe if he became president, he'd be almost 80 years old?
They've been accusing Joe of putting his foot in his mouth ever since he was a little older than you. So it's not. He's sharp. He's on his game. I have met with him a few times, but more importantly, he knows how to get things done in Washington. He has the respect of people on both sides of the aisle. He has the respect of our allies, and he has the respect of our adversaries. We've lost a little of that over the last 2.5 years.
Would you consider a job in the Biden administration if he was elected?
No, I love doing what I'm doing. I love this job.
I'm going to finish up with some personal questions. Obviously, Governor, you have a lot of long days, especially during the legislative session. What do you do after a long day when you get back to the governor's mansion?
I get together with a friend, take a long walk through Elizabeth Park, say hi to folks there. That's right next to the governor's residence. Probably head back, have a glass of wine with whoever it might be, send everybody out the door, watch a few innings of the Yankees game, and call it a night.
And any TV shows or movies that you are watching or like this summer?
Sports is more my thing.
What do you think of the
I'm looking forward to Jack Ryan, though, coming back.
Oh, yeah, I've watched that show.
I love that show.
Yeah. So the Yankees have been doing very well lately. They just had a series against the Dodgers. How do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to win the World Series?
They're going to win the World Series. Great team, a lot of passion, a lot of energy. Sorry, Red Sox fans, I feel for you, but it looks like a Yankees year.
Yeah, and last year you told us that we know Pepe's is your favorite pizza place. But what are some of your favorite restaurants, and what are some of your favorite foods that you like?
I like everything that Annie doesn't like me to eat, to tell you the truth. You know, I'll tell you one thing. I spent a lot of time going to the restaurants around here.
Yeah.
And here and in West Hartford. And
Where should we go? We're going to lunch after this.
where should they go, Rob? Experiment. That's what I tell you. Go to Salute. That's cool because you can sit outside and it's a short walk from here. So that'd be a running head start. But there are just so many amazing local restaurants. If you explore around here, I like to go to breweries myself. The fresh brewed stuff. I thought I'd given up beer 25 years ago. I've developed a taste for it again. It's a whole different beverage than it was in 1970. Make mine a bud. So I've had a good time exploring the state. You know, I did all the campaigning. It takes you to 169 towns, but you know, now I go to the restaurants and the brew pubs. I do a lot of hiking every weekend. Annie and I explore a different park.
All right, Governor, thank you very much for doing this. It's a pleasure. All right, thank you for watching. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go to ravenryan.com. Give me a follow on Twitter. Go follow the Governor on Twitter at Governor Ned Lamont.
Raven Ryan, cheers.
Thank you for watching. Reporting for Raving Ryan, I'm Ryan Anastasio.